The heart is one of the most vital parts of the body. All the blood in your body flows to the heart, and the heart makes sure that it goes where it needs to go, to all of the body tissues, in order to supply them with oxygen so that they can carry out their essential functions. Without the heart, we wouldn't be able to survive. The heart is a very intricate pathway, and so I'm going to take a few minutes to describe that pathway, point out the key components, and a few ways that you can remember these components. I'm going to start by defining a few key terms of the heart, the first of which is chambers or spaces of the heart. We have 4 chambers in a human heart, an atrium and ventricle on both sides of the heart, so you have 2 right chambers and 2 left chambers. Valves are another key component. They help control the blood flow in the heart, and they prevent backflow of blood. So you can think of them as the people in the parking lot with the bright yellow vests on that are controlling traffic, and they don't let the blood go the wrong way. They're found in between the chambers of the heart and also between the chambers and the arteries leaving the heart. The arteries are blood vessels that move away from the heart, and they supply blood to the body. The veins are the vessels that return blood to the heart. Blood from the body is going to enter the heart through the vena cava. You have a superior vena cava and an inferior vena cava, which is not very visible in the model. This blood is deoxygenated and is going to enter into the right atrium, which is the first chamber of the heart. From there, the blood will flow through the right atrioventricular valve, or the tricuspid valve, into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, the blood will flow through the pulmonary semilunar valve into the pulmonary arteries. From the pulmonary arteries, the blood will flow to the lungs. Once blood reaches the lungs, it dumps out the carbon dioxide, which is the carbon dioxide that you exhale, and we inhale oxygen, which is then moved into the blood. The blood will return to the heart through the pulmonary veins, which on the model are located on either side. Once oxygenated blood passes through the pulmonary veins, it will enter the heart again through the left atrium. And after entering the left atrium, will move through the bicuspid valve, or the left atrioventricular valve. Most commonly, however, it's known as the mitral valve. It will then enter the left ventricle, which is the most muscular chamber of the heart, and from there it will leave the heart through the aortic semilunar valve and will enter the aorta, which is this vessel up here. The aorta is the main artery that leaves the heart but gives rise to the rest of the arteries in the body. And so, once entering the arteries will then narrow and be called arterioles. The arterioles will become vessels known as capillaries, and at that point, the blood is now deoxygenated in the body. It will then enter through venules and then back to veins. And so the vena cava, where we initially entered the right atrium, is a vein. And so that's how our circulation in the body occurs. To end, I'm going to teach you a few tricks to help remember important parts of the heart. So the first is that you have an atrium and ventricle chamber on both sides. And so in order to remember that the atrium comes before the ventricle, you can just think about it in alphabetical order, that A comes before V. Another important thing is the order of the valves. So you have the tricuspid valve, the pulmonary semilunar valve, the mitral valve, and the aortic semilunar valve. And so a mnemonic that you can remember for that is the panther might attack, TPMA, and that'll help you to remember the order of the valves from right to left side. A lot of people might have trouble remembering the order of the valves, whether tricuspid or bicuspid is on the left or the right side of the heart. And so one mnemonic that I found for that was try before you buy. So when you go out shopping, you try on your clothes before you buy them. And so the tricuspid valve is going to come first on the right side of the heart, and the bicuspid is going to come last, and that's on the left side of the heart. I mentioned earlier that the left ventricle is the most muscular chamber of the heart, and some of you might be wondering why that is. If you look at the distance that the blood has to flow from each chamber of the heart, it becomes evident. The atria only pump blood to the ventricles, so they don't need to be very muscular at all, because it's such a short distance. The right ventricle pumps blood to the lungs, which lie on either side of the heart, so the distance is not too great there either. But the left ventricle needs to be the most muscular because it pumps blood to the rest of the body, such as the feet or the head or the hands. And so because of the great distance, it needs muscle power to back up the blood and give it more pressure so that it makes sure that it reaches its target. Another important concept of the heart is the idea of the pulmonary arteries and veins. Every other artery in the heart has oxygenated blood because it's flowing away from the heart and toward the body, and it needs to carry oxygen to the body. However, the pulmonary arteries are deoxygenated because they have not yet reached the lungs. They're going to the lungs. In the same way, the pulmonary veins have oxygenated blood, and these are the only veins in the entire body with oxygenated blood because they're coming directly from the lungs rather than coming from the body tissues.